Welcome to all of you to tonight's satsang on keeping your commitments. As you may know, I'm still in America at Ananda Village, but I'll be returning on next week. It's a very important and an interesting topic. I remember my first commitment, strong commitment in my life, was going to college. And I went to a school that was in Compton, California, and it was not a very good school. But I did, because of that, I did very well, and I got passing grades. In fact, I had A's in most all the classes. And then I went away to a very hard school, a college, UC Berkeley. And when I was there, I thought, you know, up from where I was at Compton and getting the A's, I would go straight to Berkeley and I'd get the same grades. And the first quarter that I was there, I took a course called Physical Anthropology. And that was my science, to satisfy science requirement. Because I didn't feel good with physics or chemistry or anything that hard, so I took this course. And at the midterm of the quarter, I went to class and I studied as much as I, usually studied. And at the midterm, I came out of there with an F. First time I ever had an F in my life, and it wasn't a happy feeling. And I applied myself, and I realized I had made a commitment to my family, to myself, to do well in college and to complete college. And they were all counting on me. I was the only person in my family went to college. And so I began to really apply myself. And I began to really study, go to the library, spend hours there on this topic of physical anthropology. As well, I had a job and I had various other things going, but I put my mind and I applied myself. And so when the final came, I took the final examination. It was an essay exam, and I felt pretty good about it. I mean, I had really put my whole heart, mind, and soul into getting out of that class, because I said, this is the first quarter. I've got 4 years to go. And what happened was in the middle of the night, that night I remembered, oh my God, I forgot to put my name on the paper. And so the next day I went and I found the teacher's assistant. I went to his office and I said, I was just shaking because I didn't want to flunk out of school in the first quarter. And so I told him what happened. I said, and I wrote in red ink, which I never wrote in red ink for anything, before or after. But there were stacks and stacks of papers, and we went through all the papers, and he found my paper, and I saw on it had an A. So thus I got through that class with a C. But I had to work that hard for 4 long years to get out of college. And I graduated in psychology. But I realized that I really had made a commitment, and I had to follow through. I had to apply myself. I had to develop my will, strength. I had to study and use my brain more. And with commitments, we think, oh, I'll just do this, or I'll say this, or maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. But a commitment means I said I'm going to do it, and I will, as best as I can. And so for the devotee, when I came to Ananda, I had the same focus. I think actually the college experience was to get me prepared to come to Ananda. And for the devotee, the greatest commitment is to God and to loving God, trying to become one with God, spending our time with God. And I remember I used to go to the long meditations on the Friday nights at the Lake Shrine, self-realization. When I first began, I read Master's books, and he said meditate, and I said, yes, I'm going to do that. And I went every week on Friday nights, and I had been fasting that day, and I didn't even have Kriya. I don't think I had the Om technique even. I didn't have a T board, Om board, but it was a 3-hour sadhana, 3-hour meditation. I would sit, and I really applied myself because I said I was going to do it. It wasn't that comfortable. I mean, I was hungry. I was feeling like I can't meditate that well. But I stuck with it. And as I stuck with that, I think it took about a year, and then I had a breakthrough. And that was because I had made the commitment to my sadhana, I had made the commitment to God, to Master, to myself. And as Sister Yanamata would say, she had written a little sign on her door, God alone. And the devotee has to put in his consciousness, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. Meaning we have to put energy into the commitments that we have made to God and Guru. And those are to keep our meditation strong. Now, it's not that easy all the time, and to even get up in the mornings. I remember we lived at Ananda House in 1981, 82, and at that house, I really didn't have much of a problem of getting up in the mornings, but I think that's a big problem for many devotees. And so people would ask for help. And so some of us would go through the house chanting, and we didn't knock at people's door. We would just be chanting in the hallways. And I remember one time someone threw a shoe at the door because they shouted, "Leave me alone." And, that's not really how we're feeling. And they apologized, of course. Once you get up, you're up. And for meditation, you feel so much more alive and awake once you make the effort to get up. So the commitment to meditate. And I know Swamiji said something funny. He said, put your alarm clock at the other side of your room if you can't get up. And set the alarm, and then at that time when the alarm goes off, you're going to have to get up to go and turn it off. And another trick that I've used for getting up, at other times was if you sit up, then it's easier to get up. So if you're lying in your bed and you're just like hugging your pillow or whatever, if you just tell yourself, I'm just going to sit up, and you can sit up and meditate for a minute or two. But if you get up right in the bed, then it'll be easier for you to get up in the mornings. Also, to energize, keep your energization practices strong. We should be doing it daily. I remember once Swami Kriyanandaji asked me, he said, this was early on in my path, being on the path, and he said, do you energize? And he must have known or read my mind, because I was haphazard. I said I was going to energize, but I energized some days. Some days I did 5 exercises. Some days I did 1 exercise. Some days I did no exercises. And I looked at him, and I had to be truthful. I said, Swamiji, I don't like it that much. He said, you must energize, and it really help you. And that foggy feeling in your brain where you're just not quite awake. Well, energization gets that out. From that point on, I said, I made a commitment. I'm going to do this. So that. And also find some study every day. Read something from Masters' books or Swamiji's, even a paragraph, or listen to Swamiji's talks or Masters just over breakfast. Or if you're walking. And with your Kriya practice, just, someone wrote me recently and said they couldn't do their Kriyas because they travel quite a bit. And they asked me beforehand, he said, well, can I do it on the airplane? I said, absolutely, do it. And he was saying he was able to do it on the airplane. I mean, it's not the best, the air's not that good and all, but if you can't do it otherwise, you'll have to work it out. But if you stick with it, you'll find that these become very strong habits in your life, and then you don't think about not energizing. You don't think about not getting up in the mornings to meditate if you create that habit. Let's look at what happens in general with commitments. We know people tend to say things and then they lack force. They lack will, they lack focus. They don't carry it out to the deed. So you think of New Year's resolutions, for example. Everybody has them. And I'm going to whatever diet, or I'm going to exercise, or I'm going to be kind, or I'm not going to do this, or I'm going to watch less television. And it doesn't seem like there's much force. And within a week or a couple of weeks or a month at the maximum, it seems, they're not doing it. And that's because of lack of force, lack of having the energy, lack of focus. I remember my little sister. I just saw my physical, biological family here, and my little sister, she's like 17 years younger than me. And so when I became a vegetarian, which was early on when I was just 21 or something, and a few years later, she said, oh, if you're going to be a vegetarian, I'm going to be a vegetarian. I mean, it's so sweet. I mean, we're very close even still. But she was very young then, 6, 7 or whatever. And so she went the whole day, and then she came home and my brother said, Carla had a hamburger. You know, she said, I tried, but I just couldn't do it. But I mean, this was a little child. But for us, if we say, well, I'm going to be vegetarian, or I'm going to exercise, exercise is a big one. I got something, this app on my phone called Pacer. And Pacer it's a pedometer. And it just helps you, encourages you to keep your energy moving, to get up and move. And it sends you messages if you haven't moved for a while. It'll send a message and say, hey, you've been sitting for over an hour. Get up and get going. And with that sort of thing, with exercise, people lack the energy to do it and willpower to do it. If you can do it in a group, if you can have a buddy, a walking buddy or whatever, it will certainly help. Another thing that I've noticed quite a bit in my time in general, and in particular in India, well, people will say that they'll definitely do something. I will definitely be there. I will do that. I will definitely call you at this time. I will come to the class. Yes, I'm coming. And it doesn't happen. And I've understood that the commitments are taken seriously enough. If we say we're going to do something, I remember Swamiji saying clearly to someone, stand by your word. If you said it, go forward with that. And you think of a vow. A vow is your intentions to do something. You're putting your heart behind it and everything to follow through to the deed. We have on our path, as you know, discipleship vow. We have Kriya vow. I will practice Kriya regularly, faithfully. Then we know of marriage vows. When I took the Nayaswami vow, I remember Swami Kriyanandaji. What a blessing to have taken that from him. He blessed us. He had us lie down on the floor, flat on the floor, face down in front of a burning fire. And he had us take vows in front of him, in front of that flame. And it was something I'll never forget. And of course we do our best, but I took it very seriously. And also our commitments in our daily lives. It's not a vow, but it's a commitment. It's something that we said that we would do. They need to be honored with, and we need to put our energy, will, focus, stick-to-itiveness into those. And we will find that we get strengthened, that we get more magnetism, we get more energy, we get more steadfast, we can move along through tests and trials with more energy and inspiration and all of those things, because we have learned how to stick with the things we're going to do. And when we do that, we become more clear, we become more focused, we become more concentrated, magnetism flows, things come into our lives that we need. So what I was thinking about this, what makes people lack the stick-to-itiveness? Well, the situation could be changing in your life, and that's valid. If something has really changed, that's fine. Offer that to God. But we need to work on the other areas. If it's low energy or laziness, I kid around with this, but it's really true. I say I'm writing the book of excuses because I've heard so many reasons why not. Oh, it's hot outside, I don't want to walk. Oh, it's cold outside. Oh, it's raining. Oh, whatever, whatever. But if we say, no, I said I'm going to do it, Swamiji would go, if he said he was going to get a newspaper from the store, and someone in the meantime brought him a newspaper, he would still go. Because he said he wanted to stick by his word. And people wonder why nobody hears them anymore, nobody listens to them, because their words have no power. They'll shout out this and that, and people are looking everywhere, and they're getting no energy because their words lack power. If you stick by what you say you're going to do in truthfulness, your words will have the power of the universe behind them. So laziness, low energy, we have to get our energy going. Also, people may not stick by what they say. They don't care, they don't think it's important, they're irresponsible. Or people may have the habit of saying yes, just a habit. And I've noticed that, and I can look in someone's eyes and tell, now they said yes, but really they're not able to come. It's better to just say, I don't know, maybe, perhaps, I'm not sure. I think people try not to hurt the person's feelings by saying yes. There was a man who Swamiji met, and Swamiji was going to be giving a talk. And the man said, oh, yes, well, then I will definitely come. Now, Swamiji didn't even ask the man to come. He said that himself. I will definitely come. And so then he left, and then Swamiji realized the man didn't know where the talk was, what day it was on, and what time it was. Now, how was he definitely going to come? He wasn't planning to come at all. So if you're not planning on, you can't, better to say, I don't think I'll be able to make it. Of course, you don't want to hurt the person's feelings, but better to have a habit of telling truth instead of the habit of not saying what's going to be the reality. And other things that may cause people to not follow up on their commitments, they're unprepared or unorganized. Well, you know, you can get prepared and you can get organized, but better to go with what you've committed to do. Now, I've seen some examples of this, and in my time, you know, with Ananda, I told you the story about the getting up in the morning, but also I remember a time when we were going to have a women's meditation in Gurgaon. And I mean, someone mentioned it, and I said, oh, it's a wonderful idea, and sure, let's do it. And the day came, we called so many people, and I think 2 or 3 people, and I was one of them, came. So the person who had the idea didn't even come. Now, that's just not the way to go. And I called the person, I said, well, what happened? Oh, well, this and that and the other. Well, that weakens your magnetism. It weakens your aura, and it weakens your possibilities, your truthfulness, and the possibilities of getting things done. So let's put energy and focus behind what we do, not to say I'll do it later or tomorrow or badme, domani, all of these various languages. And Master, he would say eventually, why not do it now? And you'll gain great powers of accomplishment if you can challenge yourself and just go for it. Do it now. Master, when he was getting Mount Washington as headquarters in Los Angeles, he had had a vision of this place, first of all. But he got there and he got out of the car and he just said, "This place is ours." Now, the people with him said, "Oh my gosh, how are we going to afford this? This is private property. We should get back in the car and leave." And Master, he had come for God alone in the United States. He had come to bring God to people. He had seen this place in a vision. He was committed to making his work a reality in America. So he went for it. And the place was $65,000 then. That was in the early 1920s, which was quite a bit of money. And someone said to him, "Well, it's going to take you 20 years to get that place and to get that kind of money." And he said, 20 years for those who think 20 years. 3 years for those who think 3 years. And 3 months, which is the amount of time he had to get the money, for those who think 3 months. And he applied his will. This is Paramahansa Yogananda. He called everybody he knew. Students began to help and send money in to make it happen. And then he was down to the last amount. I think it was $5,000. But what I want you to understand is he was a master, and he applied himself 1,000% to make that happen, because God had sent him to America to bring people to God and bring people to these teachings. And so at the last, he said, "Divine Mother likes to keep my life interesting." And he said it was a drama the whole time, but he just kept pushing forward. And he said finally at the end, when he didn't have anywhere else to turn, he still needed the money to make that place a reality. He said he felt a wind go by him. And later on, he described that as the Om. And this woman's face came into his mind. It's such a beautiful story because he just kept trying. And he felt, Divine Mother wants me to call her. And he called her and she said, "Yes, I have the money. I'll be right." He said, "Don't be late. Everybody else wants this place. Come and bring it." And she was late. And but then half hour later she arrived, and then you should read that story in The Path, Swamiji's The New Path. He says at the end, the drama was over and the place was ours. But it's a beautiful story of commitment. And for each one of us, whatever we put ourselves to do, someone asks us to do, if there's a challenge in this way or that way. I remember one time I was faced with a difficult test, and people tend to, when the test comes, "Oh, I don't know, I didn't come for this." But you made a commitment to yourself, to find God, to uplift your consciousness, to awaken your divinity, to escape delusion, to get rid of your karma. It's an inner commitment that we've made on this path. And I remember there was 2 ways I could go. There was one it was the easier way, and I could have gone that way, and it would have been okay. And then there was the harder way. And I looked at both of those ways that I could go in that particular situation. I thought, I just don't have the energy. I'm going the lower road. And I tried to go the lower road, not lower, but the easier. And I had so much pain in my heart because I felt Master was saying, "That's not you. Get up. Get moving. Do you want to find God in this life or not?" And I turned to the other way, which was harder. And I knew it was harder. And it took everything I had. And but I took one step in that direction. And I felt this energy moving me, saying, "You can do it." Like Krishna with Arjuna saying, "Get up and fight." And I went one more step, and I went one more step, and then you know what happened? The doors opened. And it was supposedly, it looked like the harder road, but it wasn't. That was a delusion. And it was a trick. And I went the higher road, the harder road, and what did I gain? So much strength, so much attunement, so much upliftment, and so much joy. And so for each one of you, feel what is the right thing. I've set myself in motion as a devotee to live a life in God, to live a life of a rishi, of a yogi, to live a life where I'm going to banish all delusions, just like the Buddha at the end when he was tested in one way or another, who knows how many ways. And then at the end, he found God, or he found nirvana, he found his higher self, and he rapped on the ground, Mara, I have conquered you. And that's where we're headed. I have conquered you because I stuck with what I said I was going to do, my intentions, my commitments, and now because of that, the doors are open, and now I am free. God bless you all.